What's up, wrestling fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast, the co-host of the Wayback Wrestling Mania podcast. Here with a look at the Jazwares AEW Unmatched Collection Series 4 figure of Jade Cargill. I am so excited to finally have a Jade Cargill figure in my collection. She is currently my favorite women's wrestler in AEW. There's very little to dislike about this figure, so let's start by looking at the packaging details. Here we see Jade's name printed in the silver foil lettering. On the front, we see that this is part of the Unmatched collection. This is figure number 28 of Series 4. On the side, we get a headshot of Jade Cargill, as well as the AEW logo on both sides of the packaging. There's some product information on the bottom, and on the top, there's a window where we can see the figure. On the back bottom, we see the other wrestlers who have figures in this wave, and we get this nice action shot of Jade Cargill. Unfortunately, the replica autograph didn't come out very well. This seems to be a quality control issue, not just an anomaly with my figure. I like the way the figure has been positioned within the packaging. She is front and center here. Here is the studio shot of Jade Cargill. The packaging only obscures one of the boots, so that's not a major issue. You can see that the alternate set of hands have been positioned off to the side. And with all that being said, now it's time to bust this figure out of the package and see what's inside. And here we see Jade Cargill out of the package and ready to rumble. I do have a couple of minor complaints about this figure, but for the most part, I think this is an excellent addition to my collection. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at the loose details of this figure now. Here is the alternate set of hands. These are fists. And I do have a minor issue with these, and I'll get into that later on in the video. These are on a hinged peg, just like the other hands, and that allows for some really excellent articulation. Let's have a look at the lower body now, and the figure is sturdy, and that's something that I certainly appreciate. There's a wonderful amount of detail here on the boots. You can see the wrinkles that have been sculpted in and the deco on the sides. The sculpted in laces, all of that just looks magnificent. You can see the tops of the boots here. It's not just a differentiation in paint. The boots actually swivel around. I'll talk about that more when we get to articulation. There's so much detail here on these knee pads. And as you can see, these actually move up and down. So these help with the knee articulation. But you can see how realistic those knee pads look. And just look at all of the paint detail. These are exactly the way that her knee pads look when she is on TV. So that's really impressive. And the quadriceps are just amazing. Now, I will say that I think the hamstrings are lacking just a little bit of detail. But the legs on this figure are pretty close to perfect in terms of appearance. In terms of articulation, the ankle moves back well enough, but it really doesn't come forward very much at all. So that's disappointing. There's also not much in the way of ankle articulation. However, the tops of the boots swivel back and forth, and you can see that demonstrated here, and that will help you get the figure into a good pose. There's double jointed knees. They're difficult to see due to the knee pads, but there are 2 pins in there, so if you want to get her into a running pose, you certainly can. She does have the quadriceps swivel, and you can see that demonstrated here. The muscles no longer line up when you turn it to the side like that, so that does look a little weird. The hip articulation is adequate, but it's certainly not perfect. You can get her to kick forward that far, and her legs go out pretty far to the sides, but not into a complete split. And unfortunately, she can't step back. The hip area blocks it. You can bend her knee a little bit and get her into this type of stance, but that's pretty much your only option there. Let's have a look at the torso now. You can see the definition here on the abdominals. There's some really good musculature here. I like the way the paint application looks on the attire. There's plenty of excellent definition on the upper back, near the trapezius area. These straps are sculpted on the upper part of the attire, so I certainly appreciate that as well. And this gold paint choice is just very eye-catching. In terms of articulation, she pivots at the waist, and I really like the fact that the lower part of her attire isn't involved in that joint, so it doesn't look weird. There's full range of motion here with the upper torso swivel. You can get her to crunch forward this much. You can get her to rock back like that. So if you're the type of collector who does stop motion, or you just want to have Jade in a nice pose on your shelves, I think you have lots of options here. Now let's have a look at the arms, and this is my biggest area of complaint with this figure. The arms are lacking both in terms of definition and size. Jade's gimmick centers around her size and her strength, so it should have been obvious to Jazwares that they should have used larger pieces to construct the arms. The arms do feature more articulation than I thought they would. There's plenty of good movement at the wrists. Double jointed elbows. She has the bicep swivel. The shoulder joints are very impressive. I didn't expect for her arms to be able to go up this high, but you can see just how far you can put those up in the air, raising them up directly from the sides. So I certainly appreciate that. And if you'd like to get her arms to go out and back in the big power pose, there's plenty of range of motion to allow you to do that. Now I'm going to switch sets of hands. I mentioned earlier in the video that I had an issue with the hands, and I do think that they're too small. However, since the rest of the arms are also a little on the small side, I don't think that they look out of place when I have them on her arms here. And since I plan to display her with the other set of hands, I'm really not too upset about this. Here's a look at the head sculpt, and overall I am very impressed by this. My only criticism is I think that the cheekbones could have been a little bit more defined, but they really did capture the likeness of Jade Cargill. The lips look really good. I like the cocked eyebrow. The skin tone looks good. The color on the hair looks really good. The sculpting on the individual strands of hair gives this head sculpt an element of realism, so I'm very thankful for that. Here's a look at the back of the hair. And even the way that she parts her hair when she wears this particular hairstyle is accurately represented on this figure. In terms of articulation, she can look side to side with no issues. The head moves up this much, so that could be better. She looks down pretty well, and there is some head tilting. But as you can see, it puts a little bit of stress on the ends of the hair. So be careful that you don't accidentally do damage to the ends of the hair as you try to articulate her into a particular pose. I certainly hope you have enjoyed this review. If so, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for some articulation shots, and also remember to catch me on the Way Back Wrestling Mania podcast as part of the Multiverse Musings vidcast, which is available right here on YouTube. And I'll be back with more pro wrestling related content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and as always, thanks for watching.